Hey, Katie.
Hey Adina, time for Tuesday takeaways. Board meeting is over, and it's a great opportunity for us to give some cliff notes to our followers just about what went down and some key takeaways at the Board of Ed meeting tonight.
The first one, I'm sure you're feeling the same way. Hearing about the tremendous loss of a Trinity staff member, Miss Falta, mother of three kids, and it just was sobering, and it was a real reminder of what so many people in our community are going through right now.
Absolutely. I first actually heard about it when someone posted it on Facebook that her son had written a GoFundMe for the family. And, for a child to do something like that, it really, it's incredible though to see the outpouring from the community in support of the family. And I definitely want to share with all of our followers that link in case you want to donate to the GoFundMe in support of their family. So we'll definitely put that available for you.
Sounds great. That sounds great.
Yeah. So
So, yeah, you were going to say.
no, it's heavier, right? But I know that people want to hear too about some of the big takeaways from tonight's BOE meeting. So let's go right into it.
The first thing the BOE talked about was how to deal with public comment given this remote environment. And the board president shared 5 different possible scenarios: email, phone, video call, all of which would actually potentially have the possibility of increasing access and inclusivity to people who can't attend meetings. So that was an interesting proposal.
Yeah, it was good to hear all of the Board of Ed members just kind of talking about what might be the best scenario. And it might even be some sort of combination of video and phone, such as what we do with Zoom, where you have the option of either doing the video in, or you could call in just via phone and listen in and participate. So I think it's important. Public comment is important. In the last few BOE meetings, we haven't had that opportunity, and you feel it. So I think it's good that they acknowledge the importance of the public really being able to share questions, concerns, ideas, and sometimes even just to vent
We know about that a little bit.
a little bit.
But one thing that it made me really realize is that although venting and commenting is really important, this might be a really great time to revisit our committees and revive them, and allow for more dialogue and conversation, not just one-way communication, in either direction, really, to have board members hearing and talking with folks. And that could be done the same way by Zoom or by teleconference, where people can call in. I think that would be
Yeah, it's true. That would be a great way to involve community members that are interested in getting more involved, but they might not have the capacity to go far away, or to go all the way to City Hall or whatever it is. So I think now is just, we're in this pandemic, but it's also such a great opportunity for us to think innovatively about family engagement and community engagement in ways that work. And so it's important for us to take note of like best practices with the Board of Ed functioning, and just also family engagement, what the schools are doing to try to work with families in this remote environment, and take note of that and see if best practices can arise from this.
absolutely. The other big thing that the board talked about tonight was the budget. And Katie, I was wondering if you had any major thoughts about that.
Well, I mean, of course, I'm thinking about the budget. We hear in the news every single day with the governor's update that there's going to be cuts. They're definitely coming. In my school too, we're talking about that, and the loss of staff and the potential just ramifications for our students and how scary it is. It was good to note that because the school buildings are closed, they've actually been able to save on things like heat, light, electricity, and even transportation is a big part of our budget. And so they've been able to save roughly $9.2 million because of the school buildings themselves being closed. Although I definitely want to acknowledge all the great work that our custodial staff throughout the district are doing to keep our school buildings clean and safe, and just shout out to them. But it just reminds me that we need to have emergency preparedness. If this is the coronavirus, this is not the last time something like this is going to happen. And so I definitely think is the time again to just think ahead, to try to be proactive, plan ahead, because the truth is there's a lot of unknown. We don't know what's going to happen in the summer. We don't know what's going to happen in the fall. Yeah. Sorry everybody. Our kids, we're both moms. It happens.
Pause. But we were just talking about the budget. One of the things, and we talked about it a little bit when it came to community input, some of the board members talked about putting together a think tank to really capitalize on the things that we're learning in this remote environment. And I think that that has to be true in terms of the budget as well, because we're going to need to think creatively and outside the box to really, save money, gain efficiencies. And that's not going to be accomplished just from the people in City Hall. We're going to need everybody's really just innovative and creative ways for us to work through what is going to inevitably be a really challenging situation.
Yeah, and I think even this pandemic has illustrated the importance of the community partnerships. The fact that even when this originally happened in New Rochelle, community leaders were mobilizing and saying, how can we make sure that the school buildings are closed, but how can we get these kids food? And that happened from the very first day because of strong community partnerships. And so that makes me think just like how important it is to strengthen those, build on those to be even more ready. And I'm thinking a lot right now just about all these conversations I have had in the last month with families and students themselves and my own children about just the emotional toll that this is taking on them. So yeah, we're talking about academics and remote learning 2.0, but also just thinking about their emotional well-being, their social well-being. And then for so many families, yeah, they're not going to get evicted right now, but what happens to them down the road? What happens to the families who have lost their jobs? And how can the school system work with community partnerships to make sure that we're supporting the entire family? And it's hard not to think too about the disparities and how much more death there is in the Black community as a result of the coronavirus, as a result of just so many of these institutions that are working against our students and their families. And of course that affects their academics. Of course that affects their outcomes. And so, I'm just thinking a lot about that right now and how we can be more proactive and not wait until it's too late.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important to really be thinking about, what communities are being impacted, disproportionately. Particularly because what we heard tonight is that this budget is just a starting point, that there will be more cuts coming down the line depending on state aid, depending on other factors that we can't really fully anticipate right now. And so thinking about what Todd said, which I thought was really great, we must define the values that will lead us as we think about these cuts. And to me, and I know you agree, you and I share this, that value is making sure that the most vulnerable students, the most vulnerable community members are top of mind when we're thinking about where we should be putting these very scarce resources. So, tonight's conversation was very sobering. I don't think we can pretend that it's going to be an easy road ahead of us, but I think that if we work together and we really make sure that we keep in mind those that are most vulnerable, that will, it'll be consistent with the values that I think most of us in our community share.
I appreciate what you're saying, like having a values-driven budget. And that's going to be key as we look forward. And I know I was relieved to see that the new positions that they're hiring for do still include special education and also mental health services like the social worker. That's going to be key, and that work and the need is so important right now, and thinking about remote learning and who is able to access it, who's not able to access it, and how we're going to have to fill in those gaps moving forward as a school district.
Absolutely, absolutely. One last thing I wanted to just quickly mention was distance learning 2.0. We didn't really talk about it on the board call tonight, but we're all living it, right? You know, I know your kids are doing it, my kids are doing it. This week was the first week where they really were going to do more of that synchronous learning. And one thing I've heard, for example, is that parents are really confused about the grading option and how to opt in or opt out of letter or number grades in the middle school and the high school. And so we really want to hear from people watching this video. You know, what are you experiencing? And we have actually a form on our websites, which we'll put the link to below this video, where you can really share with us, what are your priorities? What are your experiences? What are your concerns? And hopefully then we can bring them to light and really continue to have these conversations. So please, please, please do fill out our survey and check out our websites when you get a chance.
Y la encuesta para la comunidad está disponible en los dos idiomas. Se puede compartir sus experiencias, sus preocupaciones, sus deseos para sus hijos también. Favor de llenar la encuesta. And also just be on the lookout for upcoming meetings on the budget. This is all happening very, very quickly, you know, with the executive order coming out on Friday regarding the elections. And so follow our Facebook pages and we will give you updates as we get them. Absolutely. Thank you.
Absolutely. And finally, Katie, we have an election date.
June 9th.
June 9th.
9 de junio.
And the board talked about it a little bit tonight. This year it's going to be a little different. It's going to be vote by mail. Every single New Rochelle registered voter, about 45,000, will be receiving a ballot in the mail, and we'll have to return it back to the board by June 9th. And this is the process for the school board, the school budget, and the library board and library budget. So we'll definitely be talking about that more on our Facebook pages and on our website. But for now, just know that you should be getting a ballot in the mail before June 9th for the school board election.
All right, stay tuned. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Have a good one, Katie.
Bye. Thank you.